As you watch this video, kindly like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that whenever I post a new video, you'll be the first to be notified. People say rich kids have no problems. They think money makes life easy. But money cannot protect you from bad people. I grew up in a strict home. My parents, especially my father, controlled everything I did. I could not go out alone. I could not visit friends. I could not even buy snacks from the street like other kids. They gave me everything except freedom. My father, Mr. Williams, was a well-known businessman in Lagos. He owned several companies and was respected everywhere. My mother, Mrs. Williams, ran a big supermarket chain. Together, they built a life of wealth and comfort. But while they had all the money in the world, they had only one child, me. Maybe that's why they were so protective. They didn't want anything to happen to me. From the moment I was born, I was treated like a delicate glass that could break at any moment. I was never allowed to play outside like other kids. While my cousins ran around barefoot on family visits, I sat quietly beside my mother, dressed in neat gowns and polished shoes. I went to the best private schools, always dropped off by our family driver. I had no chance to interact with kids outside my school. No playdates. No sleepovers. No birthday parties unless my parents planned them themselves. If I wanted a new toy, my mother would buy it. If I wanted ice cream, my father would send the driver to get it. But if I wanted to visit a friend's house or walk to the shop by myself, the answer was always no. I lived in a golden cage. Everything was provided, but I had no freedom. As I grew older, I accepted my life. I stopped asking for things I knew my parents wouldn't allow. My daily routine was the same: school, home, homework, dinner, sleep. On weekends, my parents took me to fancy restaurants or family gatherings, where I was expected to sit properly, speak politely, and never embarrass them. By the time I got to secondary school, I was used to being alone. I had classmates, but I wouldn't call them friends. They would chat about going to the movies or visiting each other's houses, and I would just smile, knowing I could never join them. When I turned 16, I begged my father to let me go to the mall with some classmates. "It's just the mall, Daddy. I'll be back in 2 hours." He looked at me like I had asked to fly to another country alone. "You don't need to go anywhere," he said. "Tell me what you want. I will send the driver to get it." That was the end of that conversation. The university, freedom. After I finished secondary school, I thought things would change. My father allowed me to choose a university, but only from a list of private universities. He said public schools were filled with bad influences. I finally got admitted to a private university in Abuja. My father arranged everything: my hostel, my transportation, and even a personal assistant to help me settle in. For the first time, I was away from home. But even in university, my father controlled my life. He gave me a strict allowance, monitored my spending, and made sure I stayed in a female-only hostel. Because of how I grew up, I found it hard to make friends. I was quiet, shy, and always stayed on my own. While other students enjoyed their freedom, I kept to my books. I had never been to a party, never tasted alcohol, and never stayed out late. I felt like I was watching the world from behind a glass window. Then in my third year, I met Tasha. Tasha was everything I was not: bold, confident, and full of life. She was beautiful, with long braided hair, dark glowing skin, and a smile that made everyone like her. She was always the center of attention, laughing loudly, making jokes, and moving with ease. She had a way of making people feel comfortable around her. One day, after class, she sat beside me and smiled. "Why are you always alone?" she asked. I didn't know how to answer. She chuckled. "You don't talk much, do you?" I shook my head. "That's okay," she said. "I talk enough for both of us." I smiled a little. From that day, Tasha made it her mission to be my friend. She started sitting with me in class, walking with me to my hostel, and calling me in the evenings just to chat. She didn't seem to care that I wasn't as lively as she was. She talked, I listened, and somehow we became close. For the first time, I had a real friend. One evening, she invited me to a small party. "It's just a little fun," she said. "No one will know." At first, I refused. "My father won't like it," I said. She rolled her eyes. Your father is not here. I hesitated.
Come on, she said.
You're in university now. You deserve to enjoy your life a little.
I thought about it.
I had spent my whole life following rules. Maybe just this once, I could do something different. So I agreed. That was my first mistake. The party was in a private house outside campus. The moment I walked in, I felt like I had entered another world. The music was loud, people were laughing and dancing, and drinks were everywhere. I felt uncomfortable. This was not my kind of place. Tasha noticed my nervous face and handed me a drink. Relax, she said. It's just juice. I took a sip. It was sweet but had a strange taste. Tasha laughed. It's mixed with a little alcohol. I wanted to put it down, but she held my hand. Just one cup. Don't be scared. I didn't want to look weak, so I took another sip. Then another. After a few minutes, I started feeling different. Lighter. Freer. And that was the night I met Andrew. Andrew was tall, handsome, and confident. He had smooth dark skin, deep brown eyes, and a smile that made my heart skip. He didn't talk too much. He just looked at me like I was the most special girl in the world. You're different from other girls, he said. I like that. I blushed. No boy had ever talked to me like that before. That night, we talked for hours. He made me laugh. He listened to me. He made me feel seen. When it was time to leave, he held my hand gently. I want to see you again, he said. I nodded shyly. From that night, my life changed. After that first party, my life changed. Tasha had opened a door I never knew existed. She introduced me to a world of late nights, loud music, and people who seemed to live without worries. And in that world, there was Andrew. Andrew was different from any boy I had ever met. He was smooth, charming, and had a way of making me feel like the most important person in the room. He never rushed me. He didn't push too hard. He simply made himself present in my life, texting me every morning, checking in on me during the day, and calling me every night. Slowly, I started looking forward to his messages. My heart would skip when I saw his name pop up on my phone. I was falling for him. Andrew and I became inseparable. We went everywhere together. He introduced me to his friends, took me out for dinners, and told me sweet words that melted my heart. I've never met a girl like you, he would say. You're special. I believed every word. Even when I noticed little things that fell off, I ignored them. Like how he never talked much about his own life. If I asked about his family, he would change the subject. If I asked what he did for a living, he would say, business here and there. But love makes you blind. And I was blind. Tasha was happy for me. You see? You finally have a life now, she teased. I told you that you were missing out. I laughed because I was happy. Or at least I thought I was. Things started changing when Andrew began talking about money. At first, it was small. Babe, I need 50,000 Nigerian nairas for something urgent. I'll pay you back, he said one evening. I didn't think much of it. 50,000 Nigerian nairas wasn't a big deal for me, so I sent it to him. He thanked me, told me he loved me, and that was it. Then, 2 weeks later, he asked for 200,000 Nigerian nairas. I hesitated. What do you need it for? It's just a small investment, he said quickly. I'll double it and give it back. Again, I sent it. By the time we graduated, I had sent Andrew over 1 million Nigerian nairas in different amounts. And he never paid me back. But I never asked, because I was in love. One evening, Andrew came to me with a serious look on his face. Babe, I have something big, he said. He told me about an estate investment. It's a 20 million Nigerian nairas deal. I have 5 million Nigerian nairas ready. If we add 15 million Nigerian nairas more, we'll be set for life. I froze. 15 million Nigerian nairas was a lot of money. You don't trust me? He asked, his voice soft. I did trust him. With all my heart. So, I told my father I needed the money for a business idea. He gave it to me. I was excited. My future with Andrew was about to begin. But what I didn't know was that I had just given away my father's money to a man who never loved me. The night my father called me for the second time, I felt a strange fear in my chest. His voice was calm but firm. Tell me exactly what you used that money for. I hesitated. Lying to my father had never been easy. At first, I tried to cover up my tracks, saying it was for a personal project. But he wasn't buying it. Don't lie to me, Vanessa. I broke down and told him everything. I expected anger. I expected shouting. But he just stood up, grabbed his car keys, and said, "Let's go." Go where? I asked, confused. To Andrew's house. Something inside me told me I didn't want to go. But I followed him anyway. That was the moment everything changed. Andrew lived in a small, one-room apartment in a quiet area. My father and I parked outside, and he told me to stay in the car. But then we heard voices. Laughter. It was Andrew's voice. And Tasha's. Curiosity pulled me closer to the window. Then I heard Andrew speak. "Tomorrow morning, we'll buy the tickets and leave this country," he said, sounding excited. That girl was too easy to fool. I froze. Tasha laughed. "I told you she was a fool. She grew up in a cage. She doesn't know anything about life." My knees felt weak. I wanted to believe my ears were deceiving me, that I was misunderstanding the conversation. But deep down, I knew the truth. They had played me. My father's expression didn't change. He simply pulled out his phone and called the police. "Yes, I have 2 criminals here," he said. "Come quickly." Minutes later, the police arrived. When Andrew opened the door and saw us standing there, the shock on his face was priceless. "Vanessa, what are you doing here?" he stammered. Tasha, standing behind him, went pale. My father stepped forward. "The better question is, what are you two doing with my 15 million Nigerian nairas?" Andrew tried to speak, but the police officers didn't wait. They grabbed him and Tasha, handcuffing them both. "Wait. This is a misunderstanding," Tasha screamed. Andrew turned to me, his voice desperate. "Vanessa, please, I can explain." I looked into his eyes, and for the first time, I saw him for what he truly was. A liar. A thief. The man I loved had never loved me. "You already explained everything," I said coldly. As they were dragged away, I felt something break inside me. A part of me that would never be the same again. Back in the car, I sat in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt empty. After a long pause, my father spoke. "Vanessa," he said softly, "this world is not fair. People will smile at you and still stab you in the back. You must be careful with who you trust." I nodded slowly, his words sinking deep. "You are my daughter," he continued. "I will always protect you. But next time, protect yourself too." After that day, I changed. I stopped trusting people so easily. I stopped believing in sweet words without proof. I became careful. I became smarter. Some people think being rich makes life easy. But in reality, money makes you a target. And love? Love is only real when it is proven. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.